regular students, normal students, who seek for normal life at the universities. And here's the picture. It shows everything. This picture, I think, it was during Al-Azhar protest, one of Al-Azhar students' protest in Madinat Nasr, in Cairo. And here I'm examining the pathways of the student activism in post-Arab Spring Egypt. It's part of my project I'm working on. I'm examining I'm shedding just the light on the student activism after the Arab Spring, or what we call January 25th revolution. And the other station, which is the military coup, took place in Egypt on the 3rd of July 2013, and then Egypt is not fine anymore. I'm starting with this question: why the student activism after these two periods? So the first one is the January 25th revolution, and we can say it's a level. And the other one is the 2013 military coup, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on the first president-elect in Egyptian history, Mohamed Morsi. And I'll just go as an academic, like in our academic introduction. I want to say that I'm examining a very rooted phenomena, which is the student activism in the Egyptian history. Like I could go back by process tracing. I could pull the rope, tell what Al-Jabarti has mentioned in his famous book about the resistant students of Al-Azhar against the French colonization in 1798. And I think this is the thing that we have to start with if we are starting with the student activism. But actually, I'm not starting with that. I'm just by process tracing, I will stop by the launch of the January 25th revolution. But I just wanted to mention that this is very rooted in the Egyptian history, the students and politics. And here are the challenges faced made during this project. And actually, I have to say that I started it with my MA dissertation 1.5 years ago at Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. I'm so thankful to them. They helped me a lot. My supervisor, Professor Khalil Anani, helped me so much in this research at the first place. And the challenges were in the interviews. Who am I going to interview? As long as I took the interviews or the semi-structured interviews as a tool of the research, and this was the first challenge for me. How can I reach them? And taking in consideration that most of the student leaders, they are in exile or in prison, or they kept silent in Egypt, and you cannot reach them just to maintain their security. The other thing was the research question. What is the research question you have to raise in this case? What are you examining? What are you what are you going to shed the light on? And the last, one of the challenges was the literature review. You didn't see anything written except some papers, some reports, some human rights also reports were written on what happened to the students. But I didn't I didn't read, or I didn't find till now, whether in Arabic or English, in any other language I could I can read with. And actually, I just have 2 languages for the research. I didn't find any peer-reviewed thing written on what happened to the student activism after the military coup, especially not after the revolution. And that's why I'm saying I'm examining 2 parts or two stages. The 2 periods I'm examining here, the first one was from 2011 till 2013. Here we are saying we have 2.5 academic years. And the second part, or the second period, which is 5 academic years, started in September 2013 till, we can say, February 2018. I was I have to say that I'm so lucky, because I joined the Faculty of Economics and Political Science back in Egypt in 2013. So the second period, like, I was all in the university. Then I was a student then. So I have to say here that the huge effect of January 25th revolution on the student activism was so obvious. You have to say that free and fair elections happened to the or took place in this time. Like the openness of the public sphere in Egypt at all, or in the political environment of Egypt, affected positively, not negatively, the freedom of academic life. Then I'm talking here about the first period, post January 25th revolution till the launch of the military coup. So the huge openness of the public sphere, the fair and free student elections, the building new law, or they were calling it an Arabic laiha, for the student law or the student bill at the universities. They were new. We could have lifting of the security guards, which was part of the Egyptian police, and the students could elect, or could elect their deans. Like, you can see a new life at the Egyptian campuses after the January 25th revolution. And it has so much details on this period. Like, I don't think I have so much time to share like details about it. First of all, I have I think something here was puzzled in this presentation, so I'm gonna follow the thing I wrote. The main research question I took here was to what extent the harsh repression, or the extreme repression, followed the military coup of July 2013 affected the student activism, and how the student activism replied, or how did they interact with this. The methodology or the research tools I took in this time was 3. And you can see here the tools of the research. Was the first one was semi-structured interviews. I held for more than now 25 interviews with the leaders, or the ex-leaders of the student activism. Like, I have some of them now are attending the webinar. And the third one, the second one, was the CDA, which is critical discourse analysis of their statements, of their like written things they shared on the internet, they shared on their pages, and so on. And the direct observations of myself being a student then, and some of their strategies or the tactics they followed during their protests and the following thing. The theory here, or the theoretical framework, as the researchers like to name it, I went deep through the social movement theory then, and the social movement theory took me for the first place to the POS, to the political opportunity structure. And in the political opportunity structure, like, went directed me to raise this question: how can I understand, or how can I examine, or how can I study the student activism? And here we have 2 ways of studying the student activism. will I study the external factor or the internal things? Like I will study or I will examine the effect of the repression on the student activism, or I will examine the repression, or I will examine the student activism strategies or their tendencies on the other part, like from inside to outside, or from outside to inside, or from the external factor or the internal factor on the internal factor, or vice versa. But I went with the first one, which is the external factor or the internal thing, like the understanding how the repression or the regime repression affected the strategies and the tactics of the student activism, and how did they reply back. First, the second thing also that we have to shed the light on is the patterns. I will classify, or I will divide, or I did this also in the first research. I will divide the student activism in 3 patterns, and I will define the pattern with their strategy. I'm not defining the pattern of the student activism on their ideological background, or their weight on the campus, how, or their representation, or where are they coming from, or at some universities, like whether they were in central universities, as long as we know all that Egypt is very centralized country. Sometimes I call it extreme centralized country. Everything is centralized in Cairo and some parts of Alexandria. So I'm not just examining the Cairo University, Al-Azhar University, Ain Shams University, or Helwan University, or even the Alexandria University. I will try to examine as much as I can from the Egyptian universities then, because it doesn't look like what happened back in the Egyptian history. For example, what happened in 1970s, the student activism, they were concentrated in some universities, or what happened in 1986 or 68, it was very large, concentrated in Alexandria University in the Faculty of Engineering, and then in Cairo University. And we have to point out for Ahmed Abdullah Roza for his recent and his my favorite book on the student activism, the politics, students and politics, which was it's his PhD dissertation back in the UK. And then I will move to I'm now on the box of how to study the activism. And I have also to mention something, which is we have exceptional case in the Egyptian history. All the Egyptian universities were erupting in the same time. All the Egyptian universities had some components of the student activism. Obviously, the Muslim Brotherhood students, which they named themselves under the Alliance of Students Against Coup, طلاب ضد الانقلاب, and I will come for this one. So I found out that political opportunity structure is the most the most convenient one to this phenomena. And I depended on what Keachlet wrote in 1986, and what also Taro wrote, and Doak McAdams, and other reviews on they call it the literature review on this one. So here the division of what Sidney Taro says, he classifies the regime into 2 things. So first of all, we have to I don't know if my mouse is shown on the screen or not, but the first box, it says the repressive abilities of the regime, or the regime is tending to make bargains or negotiations with the protesting movements. The second one is whether this regime is tending to have a solidarized political elite or it's divided. The third thing is if this regime I'm examining is newly formed or it's consolidated one. And the fourth one is does it make an alliance with the other parts of the state, or it has no alliances and it acts like a piece of a stone, like they are just on one man hand. Whether it's responsive to the protesters or they don't have it in their dictionary. They don't respond to it. They just respond with the repression. And if this regime is open, like it can open the public sphere at some points, like the last 10 years of Mubarak, for example, or like what we had witnessed from Sisi till now, from his first day as a political regime. So here's the political system, and the first choice of all the boxes was my answer for this regime. So this regime, it only like replies with repression. This regime is solidarized. It has solidarized political elite. They don't have a conflict inside. Maybe I'm wrong on this. It was newly formed, and actually, I think this is my criticization to what Sidney Taro has said. He didn't mention the expiry of the regime, whether it's a new regime or consolidated one. So the S is something for me, and this regime has alliance or doesn't have like alliance with the others. The Sisi's regime had much alliance, whether inside with the judges, with the police officers, with the media corporations, with the businessmen who sometimes funded his repression campaigns against the protesters. And also with the religious corporations such as the church in Egypt and Al-Azhar, and sometimes, and you're gonna see here the Al-Azhar exceptionalism, like why the repression was so much against Al-Azhar students, and I will take it and I will examine it, I think. And this regime, like as simple as open, sorry, it's closed, very closed. It doesn't make any openness, and I'm wrong here. I have to change this by this. Okay, let's go to the other approach of Kechelet. Like he divided the state into two things. Like, is the state here is strong enough, powerful, I mean, or it's weak, failure state? Does it make it close public sphere or very open public sphere? And on the left arrow here, the Egyptian regime is located. So it's very powerful one on their repressive abilities, and very closed one. So when it comes to social movements or activism, he will like it will face it just with repression. And also we have to take in consideration that we are examining two unstable regimes periods. The first one was under the military army, or the military group, or the military high commission group. They were ruling Egypt, and 1 year under Morsi's regime, which was failure also, and it was very fragile. And this time, and it didn't like, but it didn't use the repression as a tool of defeating the student activism. Then the universities were so open, and the elections of the student I mean the student union were very free and fair. And we have 3 elections has been like done during this time. And the unstable regime also forces and then it came so much stable as now, but it was gradually coming to the stability. So we have to consider the context when we are talking about the two periods here. I'm sorry for this very theoretical introduction. Now I'm going to answer this question. Is it student activism or student movement? And I found this answer on what Edwin Hare and James Wood wrote about the student activism, and simply these are not a student movement because they were not independently acting. They were part of the of other political parties, political movements, and so on outside the campus or of the campus. So as simple as this, it was just a student activism reflecting the political parties, or reflecting the political movements also, such as the Muslim Brotherhood, the Salafis parties, 6 April, Strong Egypt, which is called Masr Qawiya, and some alliances, the Constitution Party, Tulab Hizb al-Dastur, and the Revolutionary Socialist, Tulab al-Ishtirakiyin al-Thawriyin. So these components of the activism, they were all parts of like political actors formed outside of the campus. So simply it was student activism, not student movements, independent movement, as we can define it as a social movement. So I'm moving here to this controversial relationship between protest and repression. And I'm saying here, like, simply, these are the conclusion of it, because I had so much talk on this part. So the more extreme repression is directed to the most capable of mobilization and protesting. So and it also in the second place, it makes the non-involved into, or the non-politicalized students to be more in the protests. So for example, and this is coming out of the observation and the interviews and some statistics I've done with some students that they were involved, and they don't have any relations with the Muslim Brotherhood or any other movements. They were involved into the activism because they saw. Am I hearing some voice? Okay. Because they saw their mates or their friends in the campus, they were taken to the prisons, and they found them like innocent students, like they didn't do anything. So that's why they were protesting to claim their rights back and to claim their freedom. This happened a lot, and it confirms the second part of the sentence. The non-involved people, or the non-politicalized people, to be involved more in the protests as they have some grievance. So the more protests, wide range, the regime is taking the cutting heads tactics, and actually the cutting heads tactics is something related to the armed groups. So for example, when some armies want to demolish ISIS, for example, or something like this, they start with their leaders. This is what the repression in Egypt post 2013 has done. They started with the leaders of the student activism, and this was so clear in some cases of Al-Azhar universities, Cairo universities, and other regional universities, then from Upper Egypt till the north of Egypt. Also, I have to point out here, for the higher causes of continuous protesting or affects negatively on mobilization and continuity of the protest. Here's what Mehdi Shadmer pointed out in his paper in 2014. Is like, which was so obvious here in the case I'm studying, the student activism in post 2013, which the causes here were mass killing of the students, where hundreds of the detainees, where thousands of people, they were fired from their universities. And for the first time in the Egyptian history, like it becomes obvious that the female campuses, or like for example in Al-Azhar campus, or other universities also, we have witnessed that the females, they were taken to the prison, and with no action taken back against the police then. So it was very high cost of the continuous protest, which affected negatively on the mobilization and the protesting then. And I have also to point out that the more protests were done in the Egyptian campuses in post 2014 and post 2013, like I have here to say it clearly that the police were negotiating with the students just to make them sieged or blockaded in their campuses. So, for example, the first thing they were trying to have or trying to maintain in some cases of Cairo University, Beni Suef University, Almenia University, and other universities. Okay, you can protest, but you can protest only inside, because we cannot, we will not allow you to go off campus or outside the campus. So this was the regime's tactic then, just to surround them and the campuses, and then like it was the pre time to chase them all, starting from 2014. So I will go faster, because I think the time is running out now. Yeah, I have also to point out for the scale of repression, which is something weird for the Egyptian regime. It started it from I mean here they started it from the back. The scale of repression here, which is coming to the next one, is this one. This is the scale of repression. I think I done. I'm not good in the PowerPoint, but the scale of repression here, it starts with the repression under law cover, which is like some laws the dead in the first place, even before the student like the academic year started in 2013 in September. Sometimes the allowing the security guards to break in the campuses. And then the second station is the harsh repression, detaining, breaking set in, such as what happened at Al-Azhar University when they made a huge strike against their against the exercises or the tasks. And then we can go to the extreme repression. Here, the Egyptian regime took it from back. It started with the extreme repression, such as Rabaa massacre. It started with that 40 days before the academic year. And like according to some stats here, it says that during or among of the people were killed in Rabaa Square, we witnessed 103 students out of nearly 1,000 were killed in 10 hours in this time. So we have to just go back a little bit, yeah, to the tactical innovation. So when the repression was so high, then it reached the extreme repression at some places, breaking in some campuses. So the tactical innovation of protesting was the escape of the students, just to run away from the repression. It also like raised the question of who sets the strategies of the student activism then. And actually, through the interviews I held, like more than 25 interviews till now, I got a very clear answer that the students themselves, which was very exceptional for some groups, such as the Muslim Brotherhood students. They used to negotiate their strategies with their leaders, but after 2013 they didn't that much. So they were setting the strategies themselves. They made it non-centralized, so every university was doing it on their own. So, for example, Cairo University was doing it according to their resources. I mean, here the mobilization and the how many students we can mobilize in one protest and so on. And also we can negotiate what Ronald Francesco had written in 2004 about the post-massacre repression, which was very unique, and it was clearly applied in the Egyptian case here. I mean, the student activism. Yeah, let's go to here, this one. Here's the relationship between the repression and the protests. It starts with the, I'm not good in drawing, by the way, so I'm sorry for this, Yani. The student activism started to erupt, and then the regime repression was higher than their protesting, and then the escalation. Here, this is the missing word that I didn't write. The escalation of the student protest, they came higher. They made an escalation. Okay, so you are now detaining many students. Okay, so we will make an escalation. And I have to say here clearly, most of them were peaceful escalation. And I don't want to make the propaganda or to take the propaganda of the Egyptian-backed media against the students. So they were accusing the students then of the terrorism. They were accusing the students of holding guns, of killing themselves. In some cases, such as Muhammad Rida, and he was a student and he was shot down to death at the at the Cairo University in December 2013, and some other students. So this was the relationship, an escalation, the student, the protest, and then the regime repression, till it reached the peak of the repression, which caused the declining of the activism. So here's the explanation of it. One of the chapters I'm discussing here, and I had to make it detailed, which is the political environment. What was going on off the campus or outside the campus? So we have to point out here that the context or the political environment is part of the student activism. First of all, the student activism, and whether it's after 2011 or after 2013, it was a reflection of what was going out of the campus. So for not just in the political, on the actors, on the main actors, such as the 6 April student, Misr Qawiya students, or the Muslim Brotherhood students, but also for the issues they took. For example, during the transitional period, or the democratic transition period, which failed by the military coup, the students were so much engaged with the political events, such as the presidential elections, the parliament elections, the constitutional referendum, and they had like the engagement with politics outside. And it was attending at the campuses more than it should be. And in the first place, on I'm sorry, on their like own claims or the student claims. So and also this is historically like if you are reading if you are reading through the Egyptian history of the student activism, it was all about politics, and it also was all about the engagement with the political events going outside of the campus. For example, 1919, the revolution of Saad Zaghloul, and after this in 1936, 1942, and we have the incident, the historical incident of Abbas Bridge or Kobri Abbas, and then till the 1968 when the students erupted back. And in 1970th, and the 80th, 90th, and then when the students erupted for the Palestinian uprising or the Palestinian Intifada. So it was all about the reflection of the students. So if I'm neglecting the what was going outside the campus, so I'm just neglecting a very core variable. So after July 2013, and I'm taking this approach from Amr Hamzawi in 2017. He wrote about this, what's the political environment then. It was political parties or movements, alliance, such as the alliance of supporting Morsi, Taharif Dam Shar'iyya. Political parties, however, some of them were with the regime in the first place, with Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the first place, and then sometimes they acted like they are opposing him or opposing this regime. Second are individual activists, which they erupted or started to erupt on the protesting law. Law number 103 for 107, so issued on 2013, which is the protesting law, Qanun Tazahur. And the third component is the associations, workers, who started to also to erupt for some claims. Some of them were political claims, and some were their own claims, such as the workers' wages and so on. And the fourth part of this political environment was the student activism. Actually, here, I have some special things to share, which is we were feeling, and here I'm using the where we were. As I was part of this student activism, and here the personal experiences, is much attending here. I was like part of this student activism, so I can tell how we felt during this protesting, or I was naming sometimes the revolution of the students. So here we have to go deeper in the stories, and here I'm gonna tell some stories about the student patterns, or the patterns of the student activism. And I should start with the revolution, with what happened after the revolution of 2011. We had two academic years, 2.5 academic years. The 2.5 academic years had three student elections, because I had a message, I'm sorry for this. Student elections, they had free and fair student elections. They built also new law for them, the student law 3. They formed that themselves, which is it's the constitution of the students for what's going on inside the campus. and it also determines the relationship between the students and the student union and the administration of the universities. And yeah, and it also like they maintained some of their freedoms, such as the firing of security guards after the revolution. The story of the three patterns, I will divide this story into two. The first two academic years, 2013 and 2014. This is the first one, and this is the next one, the second one, 14 and 15, and then the third, like the third one, 15, 16, the fourth and the fifth. We will take them as one stage. Yeah, I think I've pointed out to this. Yeah, the student activism here, they have some specialities, we can say. Like it starts to erupt in September, and it starts very powerful, and it ends by the semester exercise in January, and it erupts back again in February when the second semester starts, and it also like going lower in June, which is the time for the exercise at the second semester exercise. It sometimes circle-led protests, which I mean by it here that the protests at the university is not by March. Sometimes that they are like circled, and one is shouting like, for example, this picture I have here. The proactive repression was the solution by the regime to suppress or to repress the student activism. And here I think I pointed out to this one in the scale of repression. First pattern here, which I call the revolutionists. They are student against coup. The story of the untold story of the establishment that they were. I have to go with this one through the note I have here. Yeah, the student against coup, which I will use the word sack for them. They were formed during Rab'a set in by the leaders of the student movement or the student union. Then the student union, like they had many of the leaders, of the ex-leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, and it started to erupt or to form themselves centrally first, and then they were like making some engagement, some networking with the other students and at other universities, just to establish the movement there, like students against coup. So every university had their name, like students against coup in Cairo University, students against coup in Al Azhar University, students against coup in Aswan University. So I think that more than 28 universities were covered by this movement. At some places, some private universities were covered with the movement. And also we have to say that the repression or the regime took their consideration even before the activism started, or even before the academic year started, that the students of the Muslim Brotherhood won't keep silent. So we have to start with the repression. The strategies, as I got from one of the findings of the interviews from different universities, that who was setting the strategies were the students themselves. and the absence of the traditional hierarchy was so obvious in this time. I mean, in the case of SAC, Students Against Coup, they are coming, like most of it are coming from the Muslim Brotherhood background, and here's the serious talk about the Students Against Coup. Like they are coming from, most of them, most of their leaders in all universities are coming from Muslim Brotherhood background, or they are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. So they didn't tend to have or to borrow the traditional hierarchy, which is the student or the leading student or the leader of the students is making agreements or meetings, or is taking the whole strategy from his responsible. The responsible here is sitting outside he's not a student. He is one of the responsibles from the Muslim Brotherhood. And there was like a hierarchy which I wrote in the research, and I don't think I have much time to show it here. So the absence of the traditional hierarchy was so obvious, detecting their strategies. The students themselves, in their early ages, early 20s, we are talking about this, they started to run the game between them and between the repression of the regime. From 2013 to 2016, I think till January of it, the Student Against Coup SAC, they were leading the activism. However, we had another components which I will share about them. The extreme repression was their solution. I mean, if the security or the security guards were having or seeing, or the police here was seeing like a student protest which is led by SAC, Student Against Coup, the only answer for it was detonation of most of the protesters, mass killing at some points, such as the dorms protesting for Al-Azhar in November 2013 and in March 2014, and they faced very extreme repression, which at some points led to the mass killing of students. I think we don't have very clear number of how many students were shot in the campuses, but we are talking about more than 50 in the first 2 years or something like this. Al-Azhar University for me was the exceptional one. They escalated, they had so much escalation, and because of what? Because they had very special history, very special heritage with facing the regime repression. It's a place for the Islamists. We have to take care of this. It's a part of religious institution, which Al-Azhar. No big place for the secular movements and what so on. So the only component of the student activism in Al-Azhar University was concentrated so much in the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood then. And for example, I have to say that for the first academic year, it went 40 days late for Al-Azhar University, and it was postponed for more than one time, because Al-Azhar University is not that normal one. We have to know that there are more than 300,000 300K. So much or so many students in this place, and divided between 77 colleges all around Egypt, but the majority of it is concentrated in Medinat Nasr, which is few meters away from Rab'a Square, Rab'a, the Rab'a massacre. So this was a part of why did they erupted like this. They had so much escalation, and by the observation of the videos of the protesting, and what did they do during their protesting, and the repression they faced was so much extreme. For example, in their first day of the of studying, or the universities of the academic year 2013-2014, I think more than 617 students were detained in one day. I don't want to be, and we have now, I think we have now one of them is in this webinar is attending one of the students who was detained in his first week of the university. And it also they had so much enthusiasm during this one, because 103 of the students of Al-Azhar were shot even before the academic year started. I mean, they were killed. And also they had divided campuses, which is shedding the light here on the women activism, or this one was very unique, very shocking for me, which is the Al-Azhar female students. They started to plan for the activism on their own, without like they had their style of protesting, they had their strategies, their tactics. And I think if we focus more about some female students of Al-Azhar as cases of the repression, we're gonna figure out how this activism is neglected of writing from some academics, which is something I didn't like when I was reading some of the reports and so on. The innovational tactics, and here's something it's something sarcastic of the protesting. Like for example, the students of Al-Azhar, they started to have a unique word, which is I think some people here will laugh out, the people who knows the story. They call the word of awad. They were using it as an innovational tactic of making the police looking for something, and they were making it like feeling dizzy of who's Awad, and everyone was calling Awad, and Awad was the innovational tactic of protesting. And then when like they used some password, they used other like tactics of protesting, such as once they were making the protest as poems. Some people were chanting poems, and they were singing some poems. And the other thing, sometimes they were protesting just all to run away from the repression. They were like on their how can I say this, in the very old tradition clothes of the Egyptians, which is the galabiya. They were using it as a part of the protesting. So yeah, here's the first pattern, and I don't want to point out more here, but I will call about the declining of it in front of much extreme repression against them, and they were devoted to peaceful protesting, and they didn't have any other tactic of it. Most of the students Students Against Coup, SAC, were detained or were fired from the universities, or they were like enforced to keep silent, like in order not to face the previous two fates of being detained and sent to the prison for a very long time. And I don't want to talk much about the Egyptian judiciary, power, or what was going on the trail. And unfortunately, I was one of the victims of it. Like, I spent a year there, and so this was declining, and the regime repression was not only the extreme repression, which they focused more on it, but the other tools of it, other tools of the repression, which is much surveillance, more than like hundreds of cameras in the campuses, just to record everyone what they were doing there, to build some walls, just in case of Al-Azhar University, walls in the campus just to divide it. And at some places they were enforcing the professors to work as sources for the police, to say who is protesting, who's launching the protesting every time. And in front of this pattern, the revolution pattern, which raised the rhythm of no politics, just revolution, and we want only to overthrow the military rule. This is declined due to the repression, not only the repression, but also some internal factors, which was like most of them were due to what happened inside the Muslim Brotherhood then. The opposition of strategies, the different answers of what are we going to do with the regime, whether we will keep peaceful or other ways. And the students didn't want just to keep protesting for nothing. So I think in 2016 it started to the fire started to be down, and we can say that student against coup, then they started to decline so much. Here's coming the next pattern, with the second pattern, the opportunists. I'm calling them the opportunists, which we have here so much obvious movements. The first one here, they are all written in Arabic. The first one here is Tulab 6 April, which is 6 April students, and it's part of the movement. However, they were working independently. As long as I interviewed the leader of them, I think he's attending here. And the revolutionists, or the revolutionary socialist. And the third one was Masr al-Qawiya students. I took them as cases of this pattern. So what were the features of this pattern? They were formed early, even before the coup. They were enrolled in the activism on, I mean here as protesters and what so on, just they came late somehow. And they led the activism in these 3 academic years, and they held new strategies due to the high cost of the repression. So we have also to say why they held these new strategies. First of all, they were not involved into the conflict of the coup. Some of these movements were participating in June 30th protests, which were erupted against Mohammed Morsi's rule then. And to be honest, like when I asked their leaders and their ex-leaders, I mean, and when I went back to make the analysis of their statements and what so on, and their positions from the coup, I mean the 3rd of July coup, some of them, as like for example Masr al-Qawiya, they didn't agree with what Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has done or has taken as a step. And but the vision of them, they were saying, okay, this is a conflict between the Muslim Brotherhood and between the military rule. we don't have to be there as a pioneer component. This happened to their movements. I mean here مصر قوية party, the طلاب ستة, the 6th April students, not the students, I mean the big movement of their two wings, Ahmed Maher and the democratic confrontation or something like this. I don't remember what was their name. And they were so much opportunists. And here are the five opportunities they took just to launch their activism. But they were working as, okay, the regime is giving us a political opportunity, we're gonna exploit it as much as we can. They were protesting seasonally, like it was seasonal protesting. They weren't in continuous protesting, continuous eruption, continuous continuous weekly or something like this. No, they were like in some places they were protesting, and they held some alliance such as Jabhat Thawar Misr, or I don't remember the name actually because I wrote it in Arabic, and they made so many alliance which they didn't last long because of the I mean the opposition they had inside, the internal opposition between them and the other components, and they recycled the movements to run away from the repression. This is a sign here of the high repression they faced, to be honest. They changed many names of the alliance they held, actually from 2014 until 2017 or something like this. And the third pattern here was, which is cross-ideological one. And I took two cases because they were a lot. The resistance movement, Harakat Muqawma, which is on the left, which was only in Helwan University. Helwan University is in South Cairo. And the other one on the right here, Tulab Sot Al Maidan, Square Voice or Maidan Voice students. They were in Alexandria University only. And they were they turned it to be campaigns at last. And they were they had documenting galleries. Their protesting were on galleries. They were coming into a place at the university, and they were making galleries of pictures, galleries of shows to show the students what's going on, the detainee students. And it was very good one because it worked on the non-involved students in the politics. They at the first place they wanted to make it student claims, only student claims, and at last they made it okay, it's non-political claims, but we are claiming the freedom of the students who are in jail. We are claiming the non-interference of the security guards in the campus and so on. And it's tactics here, not claims. Non-revolutionary claims, non-revolutionary tactics. They didn't make the protests like SAC, like sometimes the other 6th April or Misr al-Qawiyya and so on. And they had alternative strategies, which we will focus more on ourselves. They worked on some workshops to study the bills related to students, and they started to make some courses, some workshops for the students to show them or to work on the consciences. Here's the one, students' rights activism. Here we have, this is the end, I think, of the student activism. The second pattern, they had these events, and to 2018, I think everything was stopped. after this. So the first one was the student union elections in November 2015, which was so obvious of the defeating of the second pattern. They defeated the regime. And I remember the hashtag of دولة الطلاب تحكم, or the student state is ruling now, which was led by Amr Khattab. He's one of the leaders of مصر القوية movement, or مصر القوية, مصر القوية student movement. And they defeated the regime students, or the students, they were on the regime side in this election. And it was the first opportunity to be to be available for the students in the campus in post 2013. The second thing is the protesters over the handover of Tiran and Sanafir Islands to Saudi Arabia, which is a very political event. But the students, they erupted. They made an alliance between the three patterns, and they erupted. But it was actually led by 6th April student activism, or the movements, or the second pattern, I mean. In 2017, we have two obvious events, which is the student union elections. The student union elections here, the regime took the lesson. The regime took the lesson back from the 2015 elections, and they amended the law. They made a new bill, and they blocked many students from running to the elections. So, and they had it at the last time, such as the other I mean here the other elections, the fake elections of the parliament in 2015, and the other things. In 2017 also, the students went back to their historical role in supporting the Palestinian case, and they protested over Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and they erupted back. Actually, here the regime didn't want to condemn the protesters at the first place, because they will be in trouble, and they will get into the trap of why are you condemning this? This is not something against the regime. This is something against the Israel. Are you supporting Israel, or something like this? So here the tactic of the repression was so much different. The regime called for protesters, and actually they called for silent protest. Everyone joined this because, okay, it's safe. But at some places, at some universities, such as Al-Azhar, the students started to yell. They started to chant. They started to say some chants against the regime itself, like the regime is a friend of Israel or something like this. In Al-Azhar, in Alexandria, in Beni Suef University, which they broke the rules, and they went outside the campus, and they made it like a march, which was very obvious. And actually, this was the last event of me as a student at the Egyptian universities then. In 2015, this was like a small campaigns to support Khalid Ali for running for the presidency, or for the president elections. But unfortunately, it ended so quickly because Khalid Ali himself, he said he will not run for the presidency. Here's the last thing, Dr. Ihab, and I'm sorry for taking much time. I mean here, I took the classic form of the political opportunity structure because I'm examining a very classical form of political regimes. And the second thing is the dynamic relationship between repression and protesters. It's neither positive nor negative, and it has like many other like other things to examine, just to to determine the relationship between the repression and what's on, which is the internal factor of the I mean here the consistency of the movements or the activism themselves, and this is all wrote in the research. I mean here intermediate causal determinants. The student activism is not a social movement, which I said obviously here. The off-campus political issues were the fuel of the activism. I mean, when some things were erupting outside, the students were their answer, or the answer of the students were inside the campus. Like the students, yeah, this is the last thing I have to say, and I will end the show. That the student activism, sometimes they were overcoming political polarization, which is a failure for the Egyptian political elite. I mean here the generation of the political elite, or the Egyptian political elite, even the opposers, they are failures in making or in overcoming the polarization, the political, religious, and ideological, I'm sorry, not religious, it's ideological polarization. But the students at some cases, such as in Alexandria and Ain Shams, in Cairo University, other universities also, they could overcome the polarization, and the Islamic students were working hand in hand with the secular students, or and they forgot the past, and they were facing the repression, they were facing the tanks, they were facing the police, like just one hand, because they realized that the last and as much as I heard from the ex-leaders of the activism, that they realized that at last that the repression is coming just from one side, which is the political regime of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Here's I think I talked a lot. I talked so much, Dr. Ihab, and I'm so sorry for taking much time. I'm so thankful for this invitation, and I'm sorry for like losing some words, losing many of the parts of the research. And thank you for attending. Thanks for the people who are attending this presentation. Thank you, Dr. Ihab. The